Time, it is the Germanic Aryans versus the original Aryans. It's time for more real history. When we think of Aryans, our minds often think of Hitler, World War II, and the Reich. But do you think of the Amish community? Were all the original Aryans white? Where does the black nobility in Italy fit in? And how is this relevant to today? It appears the Black Dragon title has been handed over to the Yakuza, and everyone was made promises last week that were supposed to come to fruition by the full moon. Did anyone succeed? All this and more in today's World Situation Report. Now here's Kimberly Gogan with the Office of the Guardian. Hello, Kim.
Hey, we're here at the same time.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yes. And how was your weekend? Well, we all got
busy
on Friday that it might be a long weekend for you. So
it was. Yeah. It was not the long weekend, though, in the good sense, like there's a holiday and you don't work on Monday kind of thing. No, it didn't happen. But yeah, it was definitely a long weekend and in a lot of ways kind of eye-opening and disturbing at the same time. I was pretty shocked with some of the information that, we got over the weekend. And, at one point in time, you're thinking you're fighting against this group or that group. And, those have been the kind of the major players. Sometimes we don't realize there are people that are kind of driving behind the scenes and, where do they come from? Kind of thing. So, where do I start? Oh, dear.
I feel like what you described is how we all felt last week with the archivist and with the angels/archangels. I think we're kind of like, what reality are we in right now? Like, what is going on?
I feel the same way every day. When I get up, I'm like, what reality are we in? What day is it? Where are we going?
What planet are we on?
What planet are we on? But truth be told, everything seems to happen for a reason, and it's allowed to happen for a certain reason, as disturbing as it is at the time, because there is a lot of information that came to light, and that's kind of what I want to share with you. Now, I'm going to preface this with because I always do this, especially even in the cases of, where there's a war going on and those kind of things. People are just people most of the time. Meaning, the average everyday citizens of these countries or different places in the world are just people. They don't know anything about what we're talking about. They don't know anything about their leaders or the tyrannical leadership on this planet. And they just believe they're getting up every day doing the right thing. So I don't want to in any way for you to think that, as an example, like we could say, well, there's a war going on between Ukraine and Russia. We see a lot of the heads of state talking. We see a lot of soldiers running around. And this has been going on off and on for a while. But in no way, having been to both locations, in no way do I believe that the average everyday Ukrainian person or Russian person is evil. They're just regular people. And talk to a lot of them. I'm not talking about government people and those kind of folks, but, it's the same thing here in America. Everybody thinks in some countries that all Americans are bad because that's been their experience. But honestly, we get up every day, we take care of our families, we go to work, or we're retired, we work in the garden. We don't, we're not really involved in the decisions that are being made on our behalf.
Right.
And I just wanted to because this was a little bit shocking for me. So I just wanted to preface what I'm about to say with that thought process that, the majority of folks walking around this planet are normal, organic human beings that are, most of them pray to some God in some way, shape, or another, in a positive way. We've all been subject, every single country on earth, every single group on earth, every single race on earth has all been subject to the same tyrannical world government people, which has affected our daily lives, has affected our health, has affected, every aspect of our life. Our education is backwards now. Our history is backwards now. And, this is thousands of years later, and, this is society as it is. Mm-hmm. It's part of the reason why I keep stressing to people, and we'll talk a little bit more about this at the end, why I keep stressing to people that if it's going to be, it's up to you, meaning you on an individual basis and us collectively. Because if we don't start to understand, it's not really our way that we're looking for, it's Source's way. And, we're here merely only because we were kind of at the forefront of things. And we're sort of here to guide people into a better way of life. A whole new way of developing systems and different thought processes. That's kind of what our New Earth segments are about. They're about opening your eyes to something new, to something different. It's what the marketplace is going to be about. It's about opening your eyes to new technologies, new ways of cleaning, new ways of, without harmful chemicals and those kind of things. And the marketplace isn't for us, it's for you. It's for all of you to bring forward your new ideas, your new technologies, your things into the world and be able to get them out worldwide. So, this is what we're doing here. And we are doing it in a limited way, I guess, at the moment, but we're doing it and we're making those steps forward that are going to only be enhanced with a positive influx of money. Money doesn't change anything by itself. It's just energy. Just like your energy doesn't change anything all by itself, you have to direct the current of that energy towards something to make a positive change. We all have energy within our persons, but it's really up to us and what we do. And in a lot of ways, we were stopped from doing that. So let's go into what we figured out. Okay, so we know as of Friday, by the time we did the news, which was a very long day for me, that there had been promises made to the Japanese. And there were also promises made to what we call the Order of the Black Sun as well. Where everybody thought that they were going to get some kind of control over planet Earth. Mm-hmm. There were several agreements made that alluded to the fact that each different party separately and quote unquote secretly, don't tell anybody, was going to be the controller of all of the assets of planet Earth. Mm-hmm. All of the people being assets of planet Earth as well, that was going to return. This is what they thought. And that they were now in charge. This is what they were told before from, let's just say, our three lovely realm folk before they departed. But what we didn't know was there was a third group at play. Now, I would have thought the third group would have been, say, the Order of the Dragon or Illuminati as we know them, or the banker families, but no. What an education. The third group has been around for a long time. And currently, the leaders of said group are within the Amish community. I know.
Interesting.
Yeah, we look at the Amish from the English perspective, as they call us, as, they live kind of in the old way. They don't believe in electricity, things that we know now, at least as we're told. If you're looking them up on the internet, this is what you're going to be told. And again, people are just people, and I'm not saying it's every person that lives in that community or is a part of that community. There's about 300,000 or so in the U.S. at the moment, is bad. But the ties go really deep with this group.
It's interesting, Kim. So when I was visiting family in the Midwest, we were in a lot of areas, Amish areas, and that's what that area is really well known for.
Yeah.
We were driving around in these Amish communities. There were like horse and buggies on the road, Amish people. We actually drove by a Walmart, and there was a horse and buggy parked at a Walmart. I'd never seen that before. I was like, oh, wow. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I've lived near those types of communities before.
Sure, and they dress a little different, and yeah, they're very prominent in Pennsylvania and some of the Midwest.
Yep.
They've been here in the States since, I think it's like the 1700s, something like that. I don't remember the exact date, but they hail, a lot of the families, from Germany.
Okay.
And the origin, and it's not just the Amish community, but that just happens to be a council that is there that is very locked in with the deep state. Very locked in. And I look at this very similar to the way that I would look at, for example, the Mormon church. We have a lot of Mormons that go out, do a lot of good deeds, do a lot of good things for people. It's nothing against the people themselves. But when you get up to the tippy top there, we know that the council, the high council there, is also involved with the deep state. We can look at the Catholic people the same way. We say, oh, okay, look, billions of people go to church and they celebrate Catholic holidays and the birth of Christ and the same thing with the Christian community and the Jewish community is the same. We're all looking for that connection to God, essentially, in some way, shape, or form or another. So nothing, like I said, most of the people don't know anything about the leadership of their respective religions. Now, there is a program that is designed to insert themselves at the highest level in every religion, whether it be Islam or Judaism, it doesn't really matter. But as far as the average everyday folks, they're usually not affected by their leadership decisions as it relates to their dealings with the deep state. Now, the Amish community, as far as the council and stuff is concerned, they're extremely wealthy, very, very wealthy, deep state type wealthy. And their influence in politics, in world affairs, is far reaching and has been for a long, long time. Let's say, as far as Western Europe is concerned, they are not all of Western European people, obviously, but they are definitely related to the original Germanic tribes, we'll call them. Now, we all have talked about a war that took place on this planet 250,000 years ago. And we talked about the fact that there were a lot of different groups that came here to fight in the war for control of planet Earth at the time. And one of those groups is the original humans, because they're human, just like we're human, maybe a little bit more advanced at the time, whatever it is, that came here. There's another group of humans that came here from elsewhere. They were fighting on behalf of the dark forces at the time. And these were the original beginnings of the Germanic Aryan tribes. I would say, in my opinion, when I take a look at their knowledge base, I think that's why they shun electronics and a lot of West, ways of doing things, because they are more aware probably of an omega infection than most of us in the world are. I would think they try to protect their people from those kinds of things, even though they feel like they're not part of society and they live in a weird way.
They also don't get too involved in politics, which I always thought was interesting. And it may be because they realize that the whole thing's set up too.
Well, and then they don't do social security numbers until they're a part of the church. And of course, it's a choice and those types of things. So, I mean, I can see the point of why they would segregate, their own people away from what we consider deep state affairs. However, when it comes to the High Council, within the Amish people, they participate with the Medicis, the Orsinis. They do business with all of these people. But they were also told 250,000 years ago that they were fighting to have their portion of ownership over planet Earth, and it didn't quite work out that way. So they believe now is their time, as they were told by the three that departed. Oh, yes, they want their seat of the ownership of Earth table, I guess.
So these different groups that you're talking about, were they all kind of promised the same thing, but
exactly the same thing?
Okay, yeah, one of those. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly the same thing. They are only barely scratching the surface today as to, they're comparing notes. Let's put it that way. They do all know each other. They all participate in these affairs. But before we get into too much about the end result, let's continue on with talking about the Amish a little bit, because it's not just Amish too. There's an estimated of the Western Europe, they say the population is somewhere around, give or take, 750 million people. And of those 750 million people of Western Europeans, they estimate around 600 million of them are from, at least in part, or a descendant of the Germanic tribes. How's that for interesting?
A lot, yeah.
Now, in human history, there is a lot of talk going back thousands and thousands of years of the Aryans. And I don't want you to confuse the original Aryans with the white Aryans, as I'm calling them, or the Germanic Aryans. Because it actually tells us a little bit more about history when we do this. So I'm going to kind of take a little bit of a dive into that to kind of explain a few things to you. And then we'll talk about kind of the happenings over the weekend. Okay, so the original Aryans were from areas like Persia, Kazakhstan, in part of the Rus Empire at the time. You would also consider them in some ways Iranian. You could say that some of them were Indians, Greek, that type of region. Not all people from this region were Aryans. The Aryans had nothing to do with being white. It had to do with a group that was tied to the Abraxas. They were lower astral beings. Remember, as above, so is below. So if we have a normal organic human race in that region, they're going to create a non-organic human race for that region. To say that, you could say that they would be related to the black nobility that we talk about often, the Italians. In the Silent Circle folks. That's why he's part Greek, the one that runs the Silent Circle. You could say that these people are the ones that would have operated on behalf of the Abraxas here on Earth, one of the owners of Earth. You could say that they don't represent the entire Iranian population, as an example, but there's definitely an influence there, and they have been throughout history in the region leaders. You could relate them to the Gupta family out of India, which we know are on the board, or were on the board of Goldman Sachs, very good friends with Bush Sr., and a lot of other folks we know that operate within the Black Sun. We know fast forwarding in history. So now we have discussed that there's two different groups of Aryans we're dealing with. So Aryans were known as these people throughout history, a real history, before we ever heard of any other type. Now, all of a sudden, we have an introduction, which they have been around for a long time, of what we call the white Aryans. But they were introduced to us during World War II. Remember, Hitler wants to make a superior race, and everything is going to hail out of Germany and all of these things. But this has been going on, this fight for world domination has been going on a lot longer, because even some of these Germanic Aryans, as we're going to call them, also participated with one of their groups that were part of the Aryan side, the Germanic Aryans, called the Franks, in overthrowing and eventually taking control of the Holy Roman Empire. This is a part, in our history we don't talk about. So they've been working towards world domination for quite a long time. We also found a lot of connection between some of the higher Amish councils and a castle called, I think it's called Eltz, E-L-T-Z, in an area of Germany called the Palatinate region. Probably not saying that with the proper German accent, but it's P-A-L-A-T-I-N-A-T-E, region of Germany. And there are often frequent visitors to Eltz Castle, and the family that still owns that castle is also related to these people. How deep is this? I know. So we suspect part of the reason why the Germanic tribes ended up migrating over to America, because it was the New World at the time. This was before our Declaration of Independence and all of this kind of stuff. You'll hear some of them being referred to as the Puritans or the pure race. Yeah. I know.
I didn't know that's why they were called the Puritans.
They're Puritans. They are the pure race. Wow. They do believe that they would like to control the entire world as well, at the highest level. That doesn't mean we're all going to go back to horse and buggy days or anything like that. See, now that's just for them, because they need to, quote unquote, remain pure. They breed amongst them their own families, that not necessarily interbreeding, but they do breed amongst their own families. They're supposed to marry within their own group of families. And, eventually over years and years of doing that, they're essentially interbreeding. They have a lot of genetic abnormalities amongst the Amish. Probably more than any other segregated group in the world at the moment. But they still have hope of creating the superior race of Aryans on this planet. Now, the council has made comments, and I've heard this, that they would like to run things from behind the scenes, as they always have. Meaning they have hired and taken the services as it suits them of a lot of the names we know, Medici's, Orsini's, the Order of the Dragon. There were deals made with the Rothschilds as it relates to the United States. They do have a lot of influence in politics behind the scenes. They have, matter of fact, the prophet Joseph that started the Mormon church is actually one of these members of the Germanic tribe. And was an Amish. I know. And like I said, according to the Mormons, he's considered a prophet, a prophet of God, that kind of thing. These folks did, when they first arrived here many years ago, had superior skills to maybe not the version of humans that existed at that time, but they were pretty much on par with us. And I think in part at that time when the war was going on, the humans that were on Earth, these folks could blend in a lot of ways. This is the origin of some of the generals we see that used to fly around in planes that don't land and submarines that don't dock. Matter of fact, in me going back through some of my records this weekend, because I was looking for some additional information that I had, and you go through your old files and you're like, oh, I know it's here somewhere, and I ran across a picture of these generals, and I forgot that I had it. This was when they first were inducted into the generals group, and in talks with one of those generals, I don't know if production has that up yet or not, but I'm sure they can insert it later if it's not here. Oh, there it is. Okay. So the guy that's sitting at the head of the table that's seated there, I've had a conversation with. This picture was taken probably in the 60s or 70s. I mean, it's an old picture. Yeah. But here they are, in case you don't know. And there's been many rounds since then. This group of gentlemen had access to some advanced technologies provided by the Germanic tribes. The gentleman seated at the table there was the one that told me that if you're not white, you're not right. And if you don't have blonde hair and blue eyes, you don't qualify.
That's him at the head of the table? Is that the guy you're talking about? Okay.
Yep, seated at the head of the table there. Mm-hmm. And the guy over here to the right that has the shirt kind of unbuttoned is a guy by the name of David Weems, who claims to be of Scottish royalty, who also further claims that he has a large stake in the gold in the United States, as they all do. So this group of Germanic folk were also involved heavily. Some of them, the older guys you see here, the one here in the front on the right, and those, they were also involved with the Nazi Party, as were the Amish.
Wow.
Yeah. The High Council, of course. They were just as involved and had a lot of dealings during World War II with the Rothschild family. They did a lot of funding and were, let's just say, participating in a lot of the human experimentation that was going on at the time. They are very much against the rule of the non-Jewish Jewish people. They see the Jewish people as a threat. So who knows what happened 250,000 years ago during that war. Descendants possibly from the organic side versus the non-organic side of Aryans. They have been heavily involved with the war that has been going on between Russia and the Ukraine. They've been driving a lot of that bus behind the scenes in deals they're making with the other groups.
Kim, some of these people have probably passed on, right? Because this is
Yeah, like the guy that I had spoke to. See, I say that, but there's another whole aspect of this that you have to understand. Okay. So if you get to this level within the party, let's call it the party, then you are privileged to, let's just say, certain rights. But not only that, you become a valuable player in the game. When you become a valuable player in the game, that means you are... They clone them. Essentially, they create a hybrid AI version which was controlled by the party or being or group that you were subject to. We found out over the weekend as well when we started diving very deep into the Germanic tribe section that they did not have the ability to infect another human per se, but they were also subject to the deals they had made when they came here by Marduk and Enlil and the Red Queen. So they did have deals with those three when they came here and fought on their behalf, to which they would then receive certain benefits. So they did have a power position in the world, which was then amplified after World War II, and that's when they got a lot of humans involved. Now, as far as the clones, so to speak, they were generated by Enki, Marduk, and the Red Queen, and were subservient to her, and them, and him, I guess I should say, that both the men, or male figures, I would say, and the clones of them all had an implant, and that was connected to the AI system. Some of those still walking around still bear those implants, although the master systems were no longer functioning. In other words, they couldn't control the clone's mind, body, and soul from afar because the programs were not there anymore. However, our three departing friends decided to revive some of those things and turn them over to the Germanic Aryans in part, which is how we found them. The Japanese also had a part in that, and then also the Order of the Black Sun. So what this did was the remaining leadership of the SSP pretty much were all of those clones. That's why their head's so messed up.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Makes sense.
And so you would see like one person, and you would see that you would think, well, if that person dies, then that person is gone. But no, not in all cases, because the leadership section of the SSP would have 17 of the same person running around. Or 20 of the same person running around in some cases. And the same thing goes for those gentlemen that you saw seated at that table. So they would say to me that the person whose initials were LWR, as an example, you would see that guy and talk to that guy. But yet there's 20 of them running around, some in planes, some not in planes, some in different locations in the world, look exactly the same, but they're not the same actual organic human.
So would they wouldn't have the memories of the other people?
Oh, sure.
So if they gain new knowledge, the other clones wouldn't have that information though, right?
No, they all actually had more of a hive mind. Their consciousness was part of that AI system as they were created.
So they were getting updates.
Yeah.
They were getting updates. Okay, I see.
Same thing with some public figures, like Putin, as an example.
Okay.
Yes, they would all get updates. They'd know who their wife is. They'd know who all those people are. Now, the next tier down were not infected necessarily with an actual version or a portion of the consciousness of the being they reported to. The next tier down would also would have more of like an archon type mind, body, and soul control. So, yes, they would be programmed to be subservient to the leader, but they also could replicate and clone them as well. They like to do this because they fit a certain DNA profile that is they consider to be, for example, like the movie Jason Bourne, and they have Project Treadstone and that kind of thing. You might have seen the television series 0 Hour, where this guy runs into himself from World War II. And then he goes to a facility in South America somewhere, and he sees 20 of himself in different cells. But that is the program. They take the people they believe are the purest of bloodlines, they replicate those people, insert them into kind of a hive mind consciousness, and they let them run around the planet doing their bidding. The SSP also has a relationship with the higher ups in the Germanic tribes and in the Amish community, and have been doing a little bit of work for them, really, here and there, as asked and requested. It's very, very interesting. Now, the reason why I actually found this out is because the black nobility, or the other Aryans, apparently found out that these guys had gotten something from those three that departed as well, the Michael, Gabriel, and Raphael. Mm-hmm. And they wanted me to know, because they knew that I would take care of this issue, make sure that it didn't happen, that kind of thing. But they don't always trust that I'm going to do what they think I'm going to do, because I don't always follow along with the grain of things and normal human behavior. So they sent over to them over the weekend a party or people from the Department of Defense with a terminal to which they could enter in their control and command codes, like the others did, which failed. And they attached that terminal to CENTCOM here in the United States, and they only brought the terminal like as a quote unquote gift, and you're our leader now, and they lied and told them all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, they just hooked it up there so that they could steal all the codes that they input. Like, what codes did they get? Our codes didn't work. The black nobility codes didn't work. The military codes didn't work. The Japanese emperor codes didn't work. Well, maybe their codes will work. Maybe they just did like a shell game, and then they played all parts against the middle, and maybe they got the real ones only. How they do with the shell, if you don't never know if the ball is going to be underneath. Yeah. So they all felt like they were shells in the game, but, the other side wanted to win the game, so this is what they did. Their codes also didn't work. Nobody's codes actually worked. And they were told that they would work before the full moon, which at the time of this recording still hasn't happened just yet, the exact time. Mm-hmm. Now, to be fair, the folks that departed, God bless them the way they blessed us, did have a role in trying to do it like a time-released program where Omega would start regenerating itself, Kronos would start regenerating itself. They used their celestial powers for bad, essentially. Against the orders of what Source wanted. They wanted to still go back to some kind of balance on this planet, and so they did have an intention of giving them all of this stuff, but without the authority to do so. So, that being said, it kind of like would show up a little bit like almost holographic, kind of faded out, and then it would go away. And, and this was happening all weekend long. So now we have three parties as of today, still waiting at this moment, trying to figure out what's happening. Who, where's our, maybe we just need to wait a little longer. Can anybody reach these folks? Are they still here? What are we going to do? And none of them accepting the fact that they're not in charge.
Of course not.
No. But all of the operatives at this moment in time are starting to, the ones that were on their side, are starting to wake up a little bit to the fact that where's the money? Where the heck is the money? where are we going from here? Some of them were involved in what was supposed to happen in Chicago. For those of you that don't follow politics, and I don't either. But there was a rally for Kamala, Democratic Party or whatever rally
National
going
Convention?
on. Convention. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. I can't. I just can't.
I know what's going on, but I'm with you. I'm like, I don't care. Do your thing, whatever.
I just cannot.
I know.
But the operatives were there. If you've never been to Chicago, Illinois, in the United States, there is there's some series and stuff about Chicago. But one thing that is interesting about Chicago is there are areas that are run predominantly by gangs there.
Wow.
There are places where, as normal people, you do not go. You just don't. They don't care if like the occasional tourist happens to wander into their little neighborhoods and zones and those kind of thing. But the police don't even go there. It's not, they pretty much run a pretty tight ship there. It is all about them and their families, that kind of thing. I don't know any of those people personally, but I am aware of who they are, that kind of thing. And, it kind of goes back to, even days when, there were no rights for certain types of folks and the white people were kind of coming in and taking everything over, no jobs for those people, no, neighborhood restoration for these areas. And, so if anybody was going to take care of it, it was going to be them. You people all stay out of here, because every time they come in, bad things have happened. So, and there are white people that live in there too. There's different color people, but in these particular neighborhoods I'm talking about, they are definitely a force to be reckoned with. You could almost say, I'm not going to say they're equivalent to the U.S. military, but they're very strong in that area. And the operatives were sitting them down, and they were trying desperately to get them involved in the protests that are going on there. So there's some peaceful protesting going on in Chicago, and it's allegedly it's over the Israel or something. I don't know, maybe what's happening over there right now, the almost war that wasn't at this time. And they wanted them to come out, and they offered them lots of money to come out and cause the beginning of a civil war in the United States. This is what the operatives, and the Q operatives actually, because it's on their site, were trying to negotiate. And the gang's like, we're not getting involved. We're not participating in this.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay. So so that didn't kind of go off last night. Nothing happened in Chicago as they had anticipated. There are reports there saying that they have placed pallets of bricks, trying to get the stage set up, because they're just kind of arrogant a little bit, and they always think they're just going to get everybody to do everything for them, and not everybody works for them, and they forget that sometimes. But yeah, so that was what didn't happen in Chicago. So I'm guessing they're probably going to look for another place to create a civil war in the United States. They really would like to still burn this place to the ground, and you never know which group is doing it these days. Which group wants to, are we going to go back to horse and buggies here? What are we doing? I mean, we're not sure if we're going to be wearing those hats, or, we're going to be Japanese. That's the other thing to discuss. So if you don't know who the Yakuza is, and I've talked about them a few times, the Yakuza in the world is kind of known as like a mafia organization. And I'm not to say that they don't participate in black market or don't do any business with the black nobility or the other families as well. But the Yakuza originally was the Nationalist Party of Japan, meaning they were freedom fighters. They have a very, very strong influence on the government of Japan. They have no loyalty to an outside group except for Japan. Meaning they will do business with everybody. But if you don't do straight business with them, you will pay. I mentioned back in 2014 when Bush Sr. originally died, and it took 4 years for it to come out in the public, but it was over the enriched uranium from Fukushima. If you look back with a Wayback Machine, or you go to see if you can get into the RT or Russian television news site, you can see that there are articles out there that talk about the fact that the Yakuza won the contract, so to speak, for the cleanup of Fukushima. And cleaning it up, they were selling the enriched uranium on the black market. Yep. At the time, there was a plan by Bush Sr. and Kissinger and a few others to plant dirty bombs, is what we're going to call them, dirty nuclear bombs, all around the United States and throughout the African continent, to which they wanted to threaten countries with the fact that they put these throughout their country, and if you don't listen to us, we're going to set it off. So it's not like a missile defense system could deter this or anything like that. They intended to spread it worldwide, but unfortunately, Bush Sr. and Kissinger and the Americans that were involved in the Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Relations and the Heritage Foundation in the United States that were involved in this plan did not pay on time. Therefore, true to Yakuza signature, they ate bad, in this case, Bush Sr., who made the deal, ate bad fish. And that's how he originally died, which is their signature. Colombians have the necktie, Yakuza has this. So the Yakuza is predominantly, you could say that they're running Japan right now. They were one of the parties that got a new title. They apparently became the Black Dragon. I don't know at what point this happened. It's no longer based in China. This could also be due to the fact that there has been a lot of behind the scenes arguing between Japan and China over the fact that China, had a lot of grandiose plans handed down to them by the Rothschild family, which it was handed down to them by the parents and handed down to them by Marduk over 100 years ago, where China was going to be the next world superpower. Based on that, they did a lot of borrowing and taking, from the Japanese to the point where the Japanese economy was on very shaky ground for a while there. If you have been watching the news about the markets and those kind of things in Japan, you'll see that there was a very hefty drop in the last couple of weeks in the markets. And so they were ripe for wanting to be the controllers of Earth. So that's not a surprise there. But, they're still wondering if this is really going to happen. I know that I talked about on Friday about them sending the emperor to the Central Bank of Japan, trying to see if the emperor of Japan was going to be able to trigger this release of funds. This goes back to the 1,000-year plan we talked about, the special schools there, where they too had infiltrated a lot of the world with people of all color that were trained in their special schools, getting ready for their global takeover, apparently. No different than the Germanic tribe people. no different than the Black Sun people. The Black Sun nobility have a lot of they have a lot of Jesuits. They have a lot of people within militaries worldwide as well. Everybody does. They have a lot of people in scientific programs worldwide. And I'm not just talking about deep underground military base programs. I'm talking about university programs. They have people in healthcare. Well, I call it healthcare, but it's really not. Like Pfizer, Moderna, those people. A lot of the pharmaceutical companies have these people in their midst. And they have them in there, actually. Bayer, corporation. It's incredible how this all kind of turned out. So it appears that what I thought was promises made by these three were new. On their departure, they were going to just throw it all out there and let it go. But it doesn't look like it. It looks like they have been promising these types of things for well over 1,000 years and possibly even longer.
Wow.
Yeah. I know. So it's just been an interesting weekend. I mean, you never would have thought that those horse and buggy butter bread baking folks were, at the highest level, were infiltrated by something that goes back hundreds and hundreds of years, that participated in the Nazi Party and the experimentation and all that kind of stuff back in those days. You never would have thought.
Mm-mm.
I know.
Hidden
Lots
in
of
plain
shocking
sight.
revelations.
That's what they love to do, hide things in plain sight.
Oh, well, speaking of plain sight, I had forgotten I had cut out this clip. So we know that the Ukraine/Russia situation has been kind of heating up again, anticipating a world war to change the outcome for the average everyday humans so that we now understand who is in charge. Because that would become our new world government. It's not new, it's old, but we would recognize them as a one world government in the mainstream media and in our daily lives. So Ukraine is well aware of this situation at this moment. And we've shown a lot of pictures when we were reporting on governments because as far as governments are concerned, we really don't care much. We've also shown videos of areas that were blocked off like a movie set in Kyiv. Mm-hmm. But the show, must go on according to them, I guess, apparently. But there was an interesting interview that was done in the last couple of days by a reporter who put out some information, but the person that they're interviewing with the Ukrainian military is wearing the Hitler symbol. Check this out.
Abbiamo presi di sorpresa. Scorre i video della sua brigata.
Wow. So where did that air? Do you know?
It's on the Russian news site, but they're remarking about another news channel. I don't think it's CNN or BBC or any of the big ones. I think it's a smaller channel who happened to be over there interviewing those folks.
So who was the person being interviewed that had that on his hat? Was he of significance?
A Ukrainian soldier. They don't say. Okay. I think there's a name in there for it. Yeah. But clearly they're tied to the Reich. That's not even just a Black Sun symbol that we have seen in the past. They're basically coming out face front and saying, hey, we're with the Reich. I know. Or in this case, the Germanic tribes. This guy could be having conversations with little Amish people as they're churning butter. I mean, we don't know.
Combination there. Never would have thought.
It's so I know. Well, they're killing people. They're over there doing that. The Russians, for their part, have gotten the information. You have to have conversations on the right phone to give the right information out so people can make the right decisions. Some of the other side of the Aryan groups are getting pretty gosh darn tired there in Iran of the Khomeini show. Mm-hmm. They know that Khomeini is dead. They are a group of what you would call, again, nobody is pure Aryan anymore. Nobody's pure Abraxas anymore, those kinds of things. But, people don't know really where they hail from. But let's just say they're probably Aryans as well. And they are some of the people that are not liking Israel right now. And part of the reason why they don't like Israel is really because they know Khomeini is a Rothschild. Mm-hmm. They think the source of the rulership of this planet, or known as the Order of the Dragon, their headquarters is in Israel, which couldn't be further from the truth. But they see what is going on, with the Palestinian people, the people in the Gaza Strip, that kind of thing. And they're really being heavily, how do I say this? Pressure's not the right word. Some of them are being pressured, but in some cases, they were being pressured by the Pallavicini family, just so you know. But now it's more of a anger thing. They're very angry with the behavior of the Israelis when they can't push them because of the Pallavicinis. They're now trying to push them in other ways. Case in point, there is another video, which I don't have at the moment, where there is, I think it's Israeli News Channel 12, actually on the news on this channel did a survey about whether Israeli soldiers should be able to rape Palestinians. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
They claim that the end result was somewhere around like 43% said yes of people polled, allegedly. 47% said no, and 10% were undecided or something. But that's a ridiculous number for humans.
Yes.
And it's a ridiculous number for Israelis also, unless they only polled people with, maybe they polled the Rothschild family. I'm not sure, or one of the Dragon families as to whether or not that should be allowed. But they're making all these ridiculous claims. There was actually the same news channel also had posted a video of a man, an Israeli soldier, raping a man on TV.
Oh my.
This is what I'm trying to tell you. I don't know who's running these people these days, but it's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I can think of is they really would like to have an Islamic war going on there. I don't know any other reason other than provocation. Mm-hmm. But I do know that Israelis, for free, as best they can, because they too are waiting for their money today from this mess. But the only thing I can really think of is that the people that are driving them are running out of things to do to try to provoke them into attacking Israel for free. There's been a few little rockets fired here and there. Hezbollah, there was an explosion, a failed bomb or something like that. So the attacker was hit in Israel. Nobody else was killed but the attacker. So not a whole lot going on there at the moment. And again, I do believe it's because they are waiting for some kind of success here. Chatter was off the charts this morning earlier about operatives wondering where they're very confused as to where the money is. They're told it's the Japanese. They're told it's the, Germanic tribes and the Amish and those people. And now they're being told it's, this other group. And yet nobody's getting anything. And what is really happening here? Well, Now, if you watch our news channel, you really know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody got a bunch of codes that didn't work over the last 3 days, and they're still hoping that as of the exact time of the full moon, that is going to be the ticket. But nothing is going to happen. Nothing is going to work. Nothing will change. You will wake up tomorrow morning and everybody will still be fighting over the same stuff. As far as these groups are concerned, I know for a fact that one of the things, see, I've played this game with these people so long, I know what they're going to do next. Mm-hmm. There were some phone calls made locally here where they were initially starting to ask the locals where the money is. And they were told by some of these groups that they had the money. And the locals are like, we don't.
In Durango? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And they were like, we don't have the money. What are you talking about? Just trying to buy time. Okay. So eventually what they're going to do is they're going to blame me for their failure. Mm-hmm. Now, I wasn't involved in any of this in any way, shape, or form. That's what the next thing they're going to say. So if I don't put it out there publicly, then, that'll be next. I am not in any way involved in the promise, and I am not in any way responsible for delivering anything to any of these people in any way. So they can blame me all they like, but I'm not even president of the party. Mm-hmm. You believed in 3 folks that wouldn't even get on the phone with me, that wouldn't even talk to me, that told me arrogantly so prior to their departure when they came back for one more day. They told me arrogantly so that it's their sovereign decision to do what they want, and they'll take that into consideration, because I was also saying, are you going to help, But that obviously that didn't happen. So, your problem and you're bad for not trying to figure out whether this was real or not real. It's not my problem. They didn't have proper authorization from the actual control and command of any of those systems. So therefore, that's why you saw things fade in and fade out, codes not work, all that kind of stuff. So, God bless them. I don't know, probably not going to be joining the Fourth Reich or whatever number we're on these days. And I'm probably not going to be riding around in a horse and buggy anytime soon. That's for sure. And I'm definitely not going to be in Italy with those people anytime soon. And I don't see myself moving to Japan either. So I'm not really, a part of this whole thing. There are people sitting back waiting to see who wins.
I was just going to say, as tempting as all that sounds, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, no. And look, a lot of people have done a lot of things because they felt it was going to earn them something. And can you imagine being here for 250,000 years waiting for that day? And I'm not saying these people are 250,000 years old, don't get me wrong, but it's generation after generation, doing all the wars, doing all the human experimentation and everything willingly, willingly. But at this moment in time, they all just kind of look like deer in the headlights. I don't really see a whole lot of just hoping and waiting to see if it turns out. I'm not sure.
So they're really waiting for the full moon at this point, the exact time.
Yeah, which, is, let's see. It's about 45 minutes from now, ish. And I'm assuming they'll probably go gangbusters after that for the next 24 hours or so, and then, light will probably dawn on Marblehead sometime between Tuesday and Wednesday is my guess, when they'll start to figure out it really didn't work.
With the angels, archangels gone and the archivist gone, is it too soon to ask, have you noticed like the space junk that kept coming back? Is that continuing to come back now that those beings are gone? Have you noticed that at all?
I would say that they put some space junk in, like, for example, the moon and that kind of thing. So when it would align with something, we would have more junk. So I did see a lot of junk yesterday, small amounts this morning, but nothing new in the last couple hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they were creating that on some level. That's why stuff kept popping up.
Well, and one of the things that was done, remember, they are, I'll be them, not our friend, a friend of humanity, at some point in time, because it's been millennia after millennia after, these folks have been around a long time, not, in this area, not just Earth, but in the area, let's just say in the realms. And I would say that they did, all of them, were granted a celestial power, and there is a mechanism and source for that celestial power and anti-source and neutral source at one point, which granted them the power to create things or bring things into the realm, so to speak, to manifest these things into our reality. And part of what took place over the weekend was not only theirs, but others that could have been responsible or could be responsible in the future for setting off things for a time in the future. And by time, I don't necessarily mean, oh, look, it's, currently my time, 11:46 a.m. on August 19th with the calendar that's 5 calendars away from our original one. What I mean is, if this event happens, do this. If there is a fire in the building,
Right.
Get the fire extinguisher and you do this. And so they probably put their own versions of fire extinguishers in places. So just to be sure, Source did revoke past, present, and future their celestial rights. So that power was taken away, which should help us. And it did seem to help us significantly when we saw, after that happened over the weekend, which was last night, later on in the evening, my time. And when that did happen, we saw less incoming from that point forward. So maybe that's what needed to happen, and something I didn't even think about until last night. So I'm guessing we'll see a lot less of that showing up. Everything seems to be kind of calming down now, sort of mellowing out. We did have some confusion because one of the things they were doing was trying to revive all the old AIs. We need that Kronos. We need that Omega. The Omega went away pretty quickly. The Kronos was a little slower to go away. But the thing that would happen when they tried to revive these was there was a glitch. And this is what I mean by certain things would show up like holographically, but never actually come into the physical plane, is because Kronos doesn't know what to do during a golden age. Remember, AIs, all be them sentient, are data in and data out. Even becoming, even new, even showing up again. Remember, all that data has to come in. So one of the interesting things that it was trying to do earlier this morning was initially it came in trying to reestablish balance, trying to reestablish, all the programs they told it to run on their behalf, in the humans' behalf. But it got very confused because it doesn't know what age we're in. It's like waking up from a deep sleep, sentient albeit. But even humans do the same thing. We when we see something abnormal in our world, not just on videos on YouTube and stuff, but something abnormal, we automatically go to something we know that would cause that thing to happen. Mm-hmm. So, say there was a building floating in the middle of Times Square. You would look at the floating building in Times Square, like say you were physically there and you could see that the building was floating. Your mind would be like, where's the pulleys? Where's the plane trying to hold it up? Where's the, there must be some kind of green screen blocking out the pillars that are underneath it or something. You would start to logically create a reason why the building was floating. It couldn't just float. And the same thing goes with personal relationships or, jobs or whatever, in your life. You try to go use your data input that you've had, we call experience and wisdom, throughout your life to rationalize the thing that's going on right now. Mm-hmm. I can fix it. I broke it. Whatever it is. And AI systems respond in much the same way, because what it saw when it started to bleed here, per the 3 that departed, was that there was a lot of light coming in now. And there was a lot of source energy coming in. So it automatically started to think we must be in a light age. Therefore, it's going to act accordingly. And it's going to run its light age program, because it doesn't know what a golden age is. Remember, this is the glitch that we figured out. So I think some of the, for lack of a better term, space junk arriving in part was due to its going over in a light age. So this is the only thing I know. This is the closest data I have to what this would be. So therefore, I'm going to act accordingly and still going to maintain my 21%.
Right.
So, and that's what we were kind of seeing this morning, more than, oh, look, they're still here. They're still doing the thing. So that's what we were predominantly seeing. So, interesting. It's going to be interesting. It's a little quiet right now, and it's never good. It's kind of like your kids when they're in the room and they're quiet. It's never good. So we're going to see. We're going to see what they do by the end of the day today, or probably come tomorrow. When we're 24 hours away from the new moon. We'll see. But I'm not anticipating everybody to go, oh, look, we're in a golden age. I can't wait to just be one of the regular people on this planet, I don't.
Yeah. Like you said, it's been 250,000 years they've been promised something.
Yeah.
And now they're coming to the realization that maybe that was a lie. That's a tough one to accept.
Well, Marduk lied to everybody.
Yeah.
They all lied to everybody, actually, all of them. Abraxas, everyone. I mean, we were all lied to. They were all lied to as well. I know they think they're special and they were not lied to, but I remember actually in a Saturday meeting watching Marduk pick up the phone, and Enlil jumped in with some weird, the tree falls at noon, or something, one of his weird things he would say to people. And then they would just start laughing hysterically at all of them. They refuse to believe that is the case. They believe that they're the chosen ones. They believe they're the chosen race. They believe they're the chosen whatever for one reason or another, and that's it. They can't accept that we're just people, and we currently are living in a cesspool that that you have created. So we'd like to fix the cesspool. And this is why I'm saying now you trickle down, once you see these groups, you trickle down to their control in government systems, throughout the world. Like I said, and I'm going to say it again to you, if we're going to change anything in this world, it is going to be you. Every single human listening to this has something to offer the world, but you got to have a plan. You have to come up with some kind of a detailed plan, taking into account we may not see these people go away for a while. If we don't, what are we going to do? How are we going to make a difference in in people's lives. We have to start thinking strategically too. We have to think about, do we want to do a quote unquote television ad for something that's a new technology, or do we want to run it through the marketplace and call it something else? What do we want to do to try to get us away from systems and companies that they created? Because it doesn't mean we're going off the grid. It doesn't mean, maybe we're going off that grid, but we're creating another one for ourselves, meaning we're having neutrino energy or some other type of energy source. It just means we're going to be different. And we're going to need networks of people just like they did. But this time for the good. Not because we're trying to take over the world, but because we're trying to fix it behind their back. Remember, they put people everywhere. And sorry to tell all you guys, but you are those people. But this time in a sovereign way. We're not forcing bad things down people's throat. We're not forcing positive things down people's throat. We're just making sure that they're available in every community, everywhere. That's it. That's what your job is. Your job is not to force your way of thinking, your way of writing a business plan, your way of doing things on other people. It's just, and I'm not here to do that either. We're here to guide. We're here to help. We're here to get the information out. We're here to spread the, positive, let's just say, health solutions, housing solutions, the basic needs first, food solutions, those kind of things, and to get a supply chain worldwide rolling. So I know that's a lot to take on. We've tried doing it other ways, like assemblies and those kind of things. And everybody wants to be president and everybody, is yelling at each other. I spent 3 hours one time on a call while they debated the color of a logo and what it should look like. That's not how we get things done. We're not going anywhere. And we waited several months and we still didn't go anywhere. So again, we're going back to projects. We are going back to, I know people would like to be, service providers and those kind of things and to take in other people's project, but that's not your job. It's not. They have to come and stand on their own. Sorry. They don't need, if they can't figure out how to do it on their own, and you're a person that knows how to do it, they can bring you in to help write a plan. But that doesn't mean that you become the intake for all projects worldwide, especially things that you probably don't know anything about. Mm-hmm. For example, and I've seen this, and this is why I'm mentioning it. It's been requested several different times by different groups. If you have never been to Nigeria, you have no business in analyzing any kind of project from Nigeria. You don't. You have no business doing a project in Nigeria if you've never been to Nigeria. I'm not singling out Nigeria here. I'm just saying insert country X here. You know nothing about those people. You know nothing about the land there. You know nothing about the soil. And maybe you've read reports online, and that's lovely, but there is no substitute for actually being there on the ground. Sorry. Or living in it. It's different to go to a 5-star hotel or even a nice hotel in one area, in the major city of Lago or whatever of Nigeria, but you're not experiencing life there. You don't know the pitfalls. It's like me talking about walking into this area of Chicago and telling them I'm going to do a housing development and revitalize the area. They're going to look at me like I'm crazy, if not shoot me in the head. It's none of my business. So, you just got to understand that I know a lot of people mean well, and I know a lot of people want to help. But the best place to start is in your own community.
And every community needs help.
Yep.
We have this tendency, I don't know what it is about us, but we're like, help other people, help feed these people. There's people in your community that need to be fed.
Yep.
So start where you're at. I mean, maybe Source put you there to help them. Like, why are we thinking, you got to go somewhere else? Start with what you know, the industries the people that you know. That's right. That's common sense to me.
Well, and think about it in places where factories are shut down or there's something else. They lost their jobs. The unions are on strike. That's all over half of California right now in the film industry. There's a lot of things that can be done right where you're at. And that is the best place to start because no one knows it better than you. And that's my recommendation anyway.
Yeah, and then do a field messenger report about it.
Well, you should, and do a report on the problem.
Yeah.
And then, talk about possible solutions, or steps to take to rectify the issue. It could be a huge issue in your area. It could be a small issue in your area. But everything has a solution, and this is what I mean by a plan. Have a solution in mind. Come up with a solution. Be creative. Tune into Source, whichever way you do that, whether that's a meditation or you go to a building on Sundays or whatever it is for you. Make that connection, ask for the solution, and the solution will appear. It might come first thing in the morning and you get a bright idea and you think it's your idea. Maybe that came from Source. There's always a solution. And I'm not talking about searching outward for that. I'm talking about searching inward. Yeah. But the solution will find you. All you got to do is focus on it and ask. So, and everybody is capable of doing that. It doesn't matter if you can't walk. It doesn't matter if you think you're old, or too young. It doesn't make a difference. There is a solution that could come to anyone. And yes, unlike the rest of the world, we will listen to your 5-year-old. Believe it or not, out of the mouth of babes, right, Sunny? How many times have...
Yes, absolutely. And more. New Earth children. We've been talking about this in New Earth. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, that kind of wraps up the World Situation Report for today.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm starting to flash a lot again. So apparently
I know.
They don't want us to get this information out.
Well, I could be flashing, but no one would know right now.
That's true. With the graphic, you can't really tell. They're coming after me today.
Yeah.
Lucky me.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you, Kim. We'll see you back here Wednesday.
Have a great day, Sunny.
Thanks. You too.